Let's turn now to the continuing fight against the climate crisis. We're joined on the show by the founder and co-executive director of Zero Hour, Jamie Margolin. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very glad to have you on. So first of all, for people who might not be familiar with Zero Hour and its work, could you give us just a brief idea of basically what it's set up to do?
Yeah, so Zero Hour is a youth climate justice organization. We mobilize and organize young people to fight for climate justice. We organized the official youth climate marches in 2018, which laid the groundwork and set the stage for the current youth climate strike movement that people know today. So most of what we do is just mobilizing. Right now we are preparing to do a tour. So young people are going to be going on a bus tour throughout the Midwest for 10 days from March 20th through 30th, registering young people to vote and talking about the climate crisis, debunking myths about the Green New Deal, and advocating for climate policy.
I mean, there's a million things right there, right off the bat that I want to talk about. But so let's talk about the debunking of the myths. I mean, we try to do that here on the show quite often. But what are some of the biggest ones that you hear when you talk to regular people that have just absorbed misinformation, perhaps from cable news?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest myth is that you can either have a good economy or you can solve the climate crisis, and that you can't do both. And it's a ridiculous myth because it relies on the fact that it relies on the myth that we can have some sort of functioning economy while the climate crisis is destroying everything. You know, all these people who are like, no Green New Deal, no nothing, because I care about the economy, and so we can't solve the climate crisis because it costs too much. But if you think of the cost of the end of life on Earth, that's a lot higher. And even beyond the morality of it and beyond of like literally everything dying, if all you care about is money, if that's what your heart is filled with, which is a lot of these politicians and a lot of corporations, then just even monetarily, solar energy, renewable energy, like that's a job market right there. Like there's so much more jobs in these new sustainable technologies than there is in like the old dying coal industry, which and so people think that it's bad for the economy to solve the climate crisis, when in reality, solving life on Earth is saving the economy. The solutions to the climate crisis also happen to make a lot of money. I hate that that's the pitch that I have to sell, because it makes it seem like, you know, all anyone cares about is money, other than obviously like life on Earth. But unfortunately, that is the pitch that I have to sell. And so, yeah, that's such a myth. It's if you actually care about the economy and you care about money at all, you're going to be all hands on deck for this. Because where are you going to go shopping when all the resources are gone? Like with what? What are you going to buy? Everything is going to be gone. Where are you shopping? Like I agree.
So you mentioned that one of the goals of the tour is going to be registering new young voters, and obviously we hope that as many do as possible. I wanted to ask you a question because I saw that you had recently tweeted that you, I believe today, just voted for the first time. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
I did, yes. So I was like doing my homework, and my dad was like, our ballots came, because so I live in Washington State, so we do mail ballots for the primary, and the Washington State primary is March 10th, but that came in today. And I turned 18 this past December, so I've only been 18 for like a few months, and I'm just like, oh my God. And so it was like really cool to actually, I've seen my parents fill out my ballots ever since I was little, but I got the ballot in the mail and I filled it out, and I filled in my vote. I voted for Bernie Sanders, and we put it in the mail, and it was just like it was very quick and easy, and it made me kind of happy that like, oh my God, I voted. And I actually, you know, I've been out on the campaign trail, you know, speaking, rallying, stump speeching, et cetera, for Bernie Sanders, but it's something to like actually put my vote down in the political system for the very first time. That is truly incredible. But it also made me mad because I was like, mail-in ballots are so easy and quick, and it was not a hassle at all. I just filled in a bubble and boom. And I'm like, why can't, like, voting can be so easy, and our democracy and the politicians in office could be the ones that we wanted and the ones that would make all this change that we need if the entire country, you know, made voting easy. So it also kind of made me mad about how hard how hard people, like voter restrictions, how hard people are making it for people to vote, when in reality, like in Washington State, just like the mail, like it was so easy for me to vote. It was like that. It took like a minute. And why can't it be like that all over the country? I don't understand.
Some people have different objectives when it comes to elections. Right. We want people to vote, some people not so interested in that. So I wanted to ask you about the effort. You talked before about laying the groundwork for this worldwide movement that we're seeing. And so I wanted to just check, in terms of getting new people involved, getting new activists, you know, trained and ready to spread the message. People have been talking a lot about climate change for the past couple of years. Are you seeing a continuation of that energy into 2020? Is the presidential election, is that making it easier?
I think that right now, I think people are really starting to wake up to the climate crisis, and not only wake up to, because people kind of knew it existed, the whole Al Gore inconvenient truth. People kind of were like on board for not on board the fact that it exists, because there's a lot of climate denial, but people knew and heard about it. But now I think ever since this massive youth movement and all of these massive mobilizations, people are really starting to understand the urgency. And it is the Green New Deal is a massive issue in this upcoming election. And also, I don't think climate is enough on people's minds right now. In the presidential debates, I don't think they spend enough time on the climate crisis. I still really need them. I think we need a whole separate climate debate. And I know that a lot of environmental organizations, including Zero Hour, were really pushing for that and advocating for it. And the DNC just wouldn't let it happen, because we need the candidates to really those in-depth discussions about policy. Because the thing is that everyone can sound good on climate. They can be I want to solve, Amy Klobuchar is out here I'm going to solve the climate crisis. I'm so progressive. But her actual policies make it clear that you're not actually reaching the targets that you need to reach. And so having the presidential candidates need to have an in-debate comparing of their climate policies, really understanding. People need to understand what the Green New Deal is. People need to understand how candidates are different and what actually needs to happen in order to solve this issue. Because what's happening is people are going by cheap words. Bloomberg can be out here saying, I'm great on climate. I donated this much. But if you see the actual policies are not enough. That conversation hasn't been had yet. So I think we're starting to get there, but we're really far from where we need to be. It's not. This issue is so urgent. It should be on the front page of every newspaper every day. There should be a climate update, climate update. It should be something that everyone's always thinking about, because what is more important than literally the threat of the end of life on Earth? And that's not me sounding apocalyptic. That's just saying the facts. And the fact that people aren't treating it with that urgency is really concerning.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.